Linda hooked the worn slipper with her bare toes, biting her lips so hard she tasted copper as a violent spike of pain ripped through her spine. 66 years old, 32 years spent commanding gymnasiums as a proud physical education teacher, and now physical agony reduced her to a crying, immobile heap, just trying to reach her damn shoes. Her oblivious daughter had just told her to sit on the sofa and watch chair yoga on YouTube. It was an absolute slap in the face. She had $11 left in her bank account, a completely shattered back, and society had decided she was entirely invisible. Have you ever been told you are too old to matter? Tell us in the comments, where are you from, and does your basic social security check actually stretch to the end of the month? We need to know exactly who is listening today. Hit that like button right now so this story reaches everyone absolutely terrified of the crippling cost of living. Because what this forgotten retiree did next didn't just silence her patronising family, it completely shattered expectations, turning her absolute physical agony into a highly lucrative, unstoppable neighbourhood empire. The crippling backache always announced itself violently at 5 in the morning. It was a vicious spike directly between her shoulder blades, sharp enough that Linda desperately held her breath and strictly counted to 5 before the tight muscle finally released. She had gained over 30 pounds in the 3 miserable years since Vic passed away. She stopped moving entirely and started eating for 2, one of whom no longer sat at the cramped kitchen table. She stared blankly into the bathroom mirror, completely failing to recognize the heavy, rounded woman staring back. For over 3 decades, she stood dead straight in front of rowdy teenagers, commanding respect, demonstrating flawless lunges and sprints. Now, her neck shortened, her chin doubled, and her joints screamed. She splashed freezing tap water on her face and shuffled into the kitchen. Stuck under a faded fridge magnet was the brutal note she scrawled after seeing Dr. Walsh yesterday afternoon. Physical therapy absolutely required. Medicare waitlist 3 agonizing months. Private clinic $150 per session, 4 times a month. $600. Linda stood frozen at the dirty stove, stirring her cheap oatmeal, aggressively running the brutal math she knew perfectly by heart. The crushing sums lived in her tired body, the exact same way the chronic back pain did. Social Security, roughly $1,360. Rent for the damp apartment, $850. Medicare co-pays, prescription costs, the expensive joint cream that did absolutely nothing, $210. Groceries, barely $250, which meant surviving strictly on store-brand oats, clearance sticker chicken, thin bread, weak coffee, and a few bruised apples once a week. Utilities, water, and the sky-high gas and electric bills, $220. Total out, a staggering $1,780. Remainder, deeply in the red. She was totally scraping the barrel. $600 for private PT was a sick, twisted joke. Linda circled the terrifying negative figure on the back of an old pharmacy receipt and ate her tasteless oats standing up by the frosted window. She read in some cheap magazine that standing aided digestion. It was probably total garbage, but it gave her a pathetic illusion of control. She called Shelley right after breakfast. Her daughter answered with the crisp, dismissive efficiency of a stressed woman staring at a spreadsheet. "Mum, what's up?" "Dr. Walsh says I desperately need PT. $600 a month." The rapid keyboard tapping abruptly stopped. "Mum, have you looked online? There are tons of free videos. Chair yoga for seniors." Chair yoga. 32 years of drilling athletic circuits into kids who thought they were immortal, and her own flesh and blood suggested seated arm raises on an iPad. Linda closed her eyes. Lord, if her 9th graders could see her now. "I'll figure it out," she muttered. That evening, Linda stood completely still in the narrow hallway. Hanging on a rusty nail was her heavy brass PE whistle, untouched since the exact day she reluctantly retired. The polished metal had gone entirely dull. She reached a shaking hand toward it, then immediately pulled back. Not yet. Instead, she aggressively yanked open the bottom of the closet. Hidden securely behind the heavy winter boots were her old black stretch pants, now suffocatingly tight. She dragged out her battered sneakers, still laced from her very last class. She forced them on, breathing incredibly hard just from the sheer effort of bending over. She glared at her flushed reflection, gave a single determined nod, and marched straight out the front door. 6 o'clock on a freezing October morning. The concrete courtyard behind the grim apartment building was completely deserted. Damp, slippery grass, a rusted swing set, a cold pull-up bar, and a faded rubber safety mat. Linda stepped onto the freezing rubber and froze. Her heavy body completely forgot exactly where to begin. But her mind instantly remembered the strict joint warm-up. Neck, shoulders, elbows, wrists, hips, knees, ankles. Then the deep bends. Then the squats. 3 intense sets of 10. 15-year-olds breezed through this in 12 minutes flat. Linda took 35 excruciating minutes. Her bad knees crackled loudly like breaking glass on every single squat. Her stiff fingers hovered pathetically inches above her frozen toes. That massive gap was the brutal distance between who she used to be and the broken woman standing there today. She stood up, absolutely heaving for breath in the freezing morning fog. Let the nosy neighbours watch her wheeze. She finished every single set. She marched back to her apartment with violently shaking legs, stood under a boiling hot shower, and realised something incredible. The back pain actually retreated. Tomorrow the spike would return, but today was slightly better. The next morning, she went straight back out, and the morning after that. On the 5th freezing morning, Nina from the second floor waddled down. 72 years old, wrapped in a massive puffy coat, loudly complaining about her completely ruined knees. "Linda, can I do that with you? I've been watching from my window. I'm either mad or you are." They started moving together. Nina gripped the rusted pull-up bar and groaned loudly on every single rep. Linda automatically counted the rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Keep that back entirely straight. Breathe deeply. Do not rush. Her loud voice boomed out exactly the way it always had. The fierce, commanding PE teacher tone, pitched perfectly to carry across a massive gymnasium. By the very end of week 2, they were 6 desperate retirees moving together. Big Rita brought a folding chair. Lean Jean worked his frozen shoulder. Old Mrs. Holm left her cane behind. 6 people on a freezing playground, their joints loudly cracking, steam aggressively rising from their breath, entirely refusing to be thrown on the scrap heap. By the 3rd week, the group was 10. Someone had filmed them. A young guy with a dog, 10 seconds on his phone as he passed, and the video went around the building's group chat. Linda saw the camera and felt heat flood her face. The specific burn of being caught doing something she wasn't ashamed of, but that others might find ridiculous. A grandmother in stretch pants, leading calisthenics on a playground while a corgi sniffed the yoga mat. "Let him film," Rita said. "Free advertising." "For what?" "Healthy old age," Rita answered, and dropped into a deeper squat than necessary, just to prove a point. Wednesday evening, Shelley called. Not with the usual 3-minute efficiency, but with a tone Linda recognised. The voice of an adult child who's heard something about a parent and isn't sure how to bring it up. "Mum, Tammy called me. She says you're doing..." Exercises. In the courtyard. With the neighbours. With neighbours. We exercise together. Mum, someone filmed it. It's in the building chat. You're in stretch pants on the playground. And? Mum, you're 66. People are watching. Then they're getting a free class. Shelley was quiet. The silence of a daughter embarrassed not by her mother, but by having a mother who does things in public that don't fit the picture. The picture. 66, widowed, indoors, invisible. Shelley, I'm not asking you to understand. I'm asking you not to interfere. She hung up, stood at the window looking at the playground. A minute later, the phone rang. Shelley again. Linda picked up, ready to repeat herself, but instead of a ringtone, heard Shelley's voice in the background, to Tom, on speaker, unaware the call had connected. Mum's lost it, Tom. Doing exercises on the playground, neighbours filming, Tammy called, embarrassing. She's 66, a widow, and instead of sitting at home, she's out there in stretch pants. I don't know what to do with her. Linda didn't hang up. She listened the way you listen to rain against the window. Not to argue, just to know what's coming. Shelley's embarrassment wasn't cruel. It was domestic. The kind you spend on relatives who don't behave normally. Domestic shame hurts more than anger, because anger is an event and shame is a verdict, delivered between dinner and dishes. Linda pressed end, set the phone face down, went to bed, stared at the ceiling, thought about Nina groaning on every squat, about Mrs. Holm leaving her cane at the bench. Thought, maybe Shelley's right. Maybe 66 is when you stop. 7:15 a.m. Doorbell. Nina. Sneakers, cap, mat. The face of a woman who doesn't accept excuses. Linda, 5 people are waiting. We don't start without you. Nina, today I'm not. Yesterday I climbed to the 2nd floor without stopping. First time in 2 years. My knees let me. So put your shoes on, because if you stay home, I stay home tomorrow, and we all go back to our apartments. Shoes, now. Linda looked at Nina, at the slippers, at the sneakers by the door. Changed. On the playground, 5 regulars plus someone new. A woman about 50, athletic build, small notebook, watching with professional interest. Linda started the routine. By the 20th minute, she'd forgotten Shelley, because Jean raised his left arm above his shoulder for the first time since the stroke, and he stopped there, amazed at his own body. Mrs. Holm did 3 squats without holding anything and laughed, the quiet, startled kind. After class, the notebook woman approached. I'm Dr. Anna Walsh, your primary care doctor. I also live next door, 3rd entrance, 4th floor. I've been watching 2 weeks. Want to join? I want to offer you a job. We're launching an active aging wellness program at the Community Health Centre. Paid instructor, 60+ group. I've watched your warm-up, your individual modifications, your breathing cues. More competent than most certified trainers I've worked with. Linda was quiet. A swing creaked in the wind. Program starts in 3 weeks. Gym, equipment, through the centre. Participants pay $40 a month, official. You'll need to meet the director and get a silver sneakers certification. Weekend online course. The woman who couldn't afford PT was being offered a job teaching it. Linda would have appreciated the irony if she weren't so rattled. I'll think about it. Think fast. If you pass, they'll hire a 25-year-old with an online badge who doesn't know why Jean can't raise his arm. The director of Chillicothe Community Health Centre sat behind a desk buried in folders, 3 phones and a cactus, the only living thing tough enough to survive that schedule. She didn't look up when Linda entered. She looked at the folder. Row, Dr. Walsh recommended you. Education? Bachelor's in Physical Education, Ohio University. Experience? 32 years, Chillicothe Middle School. Medical limitations for the 60-plus population? What do you know? Linda sat straighter. Not by decision, by reflex, the way a teacher sits in the principal's office when credentials are being questioned. Hypertension. Exercise only if resting BP is below 140/90. Pulse monitored. Osteoporosis. No axial loading, no sudden twists. Joint replacement. Limited range, no deep squats. Diabetes. Watch for hypoglycemia. Keep glucose tablets accessible. The director looked up, first time since the conversation began, with the expression of someone who expected one thing and received another. Good. Written program. Levels, contraindications, pulse zones, criteria. Health clearance from your doctor. And coordinate with Pete in facilities for the room. 2 weeks. The Silver Sneakers certification took a weekend. Online, 40 questions, and Linda answered them the way she'd answered fire drill procedures for 3 decades. From a place deeper than memory. From the place where repetition becomes instinct. Certified. Printed. Framed it herself in a dollar store frame because Vic would have framed it for her, and Vic wasn't here, so she used his hammer. Pete, the facilities manager, sat in a ground floor closet that smelled of floor wax, behind a desk with nothing on it but a key rack and a logbook. He had the face of a man whose default answer was no, and who enjoyed saying it. Rooms free Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 to 10. Don't move the chairs, bring your own mats, no music. Mop after yourself. I need a third slot, Saturdays 10 to 12. 2 is what I've got. Saturday the room's empty, I checked the schedule on the door. Pete looked at her with the grudging respect of a man unaccustomed to people reading his door. Clear it with the director, I'll give you the key, but you mop. 4 groups by the 3rd week. Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening, Thursday morning, Saturday morning. 60 participants. Seniors from the centre's patient list, signed up through the front desk, $40 a month each, with a receipt and a contract. The gym was 20 feet square. Linoleum, a mirror, a wall-mounted bar, and the smell of old rubber and cleaning solution. The mats that came with the room were cracked and flat. Linda bought 10 new ones from her Social Security, $140 pulled from the grocery column, which meant 2 weeks of pasta without butter. But the mats lay on the floor bright and clean mats change a room the way clean sheets change a bed. The function is the same, the feeling is different. First session, Tuesday, 8 a.m. Linda arrived at 7:30, laid mats, wiped the floor, opened a window, stood at the mirror. A woman in athletic pants and a clean t-shirt, hair pulled back, spine straight. -8 pounds, BP 132/85. Not perfect, but aimed in the right direction. 12 of 15 showed. Linda began. Good morning, I'm Linda. Rules. If it hurts, stop. We don't push through pain. Breathing matters more than movement. We're not here for records. We're here so that in a month, climbing stairs won't wind us. The weeks ran. Evening group, louder, women who'd spent all day on tasks and arrived with energy that needed directing. Saturday, quieter, rested, and Linda added 10 minutes to the session because nobody rushed. End of first month. 60 participants, $40 each, $2,400 gross. The centre kept its share, room, admin, insurance, and after deductions, Linda netted about $1,200. She wrote it in the margin of the pharmacy receipt. SS $1,540, earned $1,200, total $2,740. She sat looking at the number and remembered the other one, -230, a few months ago, when she stood at the stove unable to bend for a slipper. Between those numbers, a courtyard, a playground, Nina with a mat, Jean with a frozen shoulder, Mrs. Holm without her cane, new sneakers, Running shoes, cushioned soles, $65. She'd been wearing the old school pair, and the soles had worn thin enough that she could feel pebbles through them. And pebbles through your soles during a squat demonstration is not a safety issue, but a dignity issue. And Linda had spent enough time without dignity. Marge, from the Tuesday morning group, 70, who'd come in wearing house slippers the first day and been told to bring proper shoes, brought a jar of homemade croutons on week 3. Linda, I bent down to tie my shoe for the first time in a year. These croutons aren't a thank you, they're a bribe so you don't quit. Then Rita's knee. Thursday, week 4. Rita approached after class, hiding a wince. Linda, right knee, inside. 3 days. During exercise or at rest? Rest. Night. Wakes me up. Night pain, medial side, at rest. Joint pathology, not muscular. Linda knew this from 32 years of watching bodies. Squat pain hits during load, not at 2 a.m. Rita, see the orthopedist. This isn't from the class. But until then, supported squats only. Rita didn't see the orthopedist. She saw the duty physician, young, rushed, who wrote, right knee pain following physical activity. Not at rest, not nocturnal. Rita described what she believed. The doctor recorded what he heard. Dr. Walsh called Friday evening, voice level, which meant trouble being managed. Linda, Rita filed a complaint. Knee pain after your class. I'm required to pause the program pending review. Monday, the board. If they clear it, we continue. If not, program shuts down. 3 days. 60 people had paid. Pete called the director. I warned you, the centre isn't a gym. Shelley called Sunday. Tammy says they're shutting you down. I told you. Rita told the courtyard. Linda pushed too hard. Nina relayed all of it. Linda listened because being angry at Rita was being angry at weather. Monday morning. Hallway, dressed, bag packed. Diploma, certifications, clearance. On the hook, the brass whistle. She reached, pulled back. Not yet. But one thing was missing. A written program. She'd been teaching from memory, and the absence of paper could cost her everything. Then she remembered the bottom drawer, the one she opened 100 times for paper clips, and every time saw, under old grade books, a thin binder in a clear sleeve. 12 years old. Therapeutic exercise program for older adults and school staff. Author, L. Rowe, B.S. Physical Education. A faculty elective she'd run for 2 years before the principal cut it. The binder went into the drawer. Linda went on teaching 9th graders. She pulled it out. 32 pages. Warm-up protocols, exercises by condition, pulse zones, contraindications, stick figure diagrams. The structure was there. Missing. 60+ adaptations, osteoporosis protocols, joint replacement criteria, liability language. 4 evenings at the kitchen table. Binder left, blank notebook right. PT reference from the library in the middle. She rewrote. If the school program prescribed 20 squats for 50-year-old teachers, then for 70-year-olds with arthritis, 8 supported, pulse checked before and after. 3 levels per exercise. Contraindications per condition. She worked until midnight, and the writing came from hands that remembered, guided by decades. The review board sat in the director's office. Director, Dr. Walsh, and the orthopedist, a man in his 60s with the large hands of a surgeon and the habit of silence. Linda sat across from them with the bag on her knees. The director opened the file. Rita Kramer, 68. Right knee pain following physical activity. Noted by duty physician. She looked at Linda. Your response? Linda put her hands flat on her knees to steady them. Rita attended all 4 groups, more load than I recommended. When she reported knee pain, I asked, "When does it hurt?" She said, "At rest, at night, medial side. No swelling, no redness, full range of motion." That's joint pathology, not exercise related. I told her to see orthopedics. She saw the duty physician instead and described it differently. The orthopedist turned to the director. "May I examine her?" They called Rita in. He sat her down, bent the knee, extended it, rotated the foot. Pressed the medial side. Rita winced. "When does it hurt? Walking or lying down?" "Lying down, night, right here." "And during squats?" "During squats it's heavy, but it doesn't hurt. Hurts at night." The orthopedist straightened. "Degenerative medial meniscus tear, age and weight related, unrelated to exercise. I'd recommend an MRI, but the clinical picture is clear." The director turned to Linda. "And the written program?" Linda opened the bag. 28 pages, spiral bound, printed at the library for $3.40. Title page: Active Aging Fitness Program. Levels, Contraindications, Protocols. Author: L. Rowe, B.S. Physical Education. 32 years teaching experience. The director read for 10 minutes, longer than Linda expected, flipping pages, running a finger along the pulse zone tables, pausing at the contraindication matrix. Closed it, set it down. "This is more thorough than our staff PT protocol." "Approved. Resume Monday." She paused. "And one more thing. A fourth group. Wednesdays, mornings. Our own staff, nurses, front desk, lab techs, sitting all day, backs wrecked. Can you handle it?" "I can handle it." Classes resumed Monday. All 15 showed. Rita too, front row, as always. She looked at Linda and said, quietly for Rita, which was almost a whisper, "Linda, the orthopedist said meniscus. Old. Not from you." "I know. I maybe overreacted." Rita, third row. Supported squats until orthopedics clears you. Don't argue. Rita didn't argue, walked to the third row without a word, and Linda understood that this silent compliance was the only apology Rita could offer, and it was enough. The staff group turned out to be the most grateful. Women from 35 to 55, spines curved from desk chairs, necks locked from screens. Kathy, a nurse, 38, chronic low back pain. "Linda, I sat through a full shift without my lumbar cushion. First time in a year." And Pete, the facilities manager who'd been against the program since day one, showed up to the second Wednesday session just to watch. Stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Third session, back row, borrowed mat. Fourth, brought his own. Linda said nothing. Some conversions don't need commentary. End of second month. 4 groups, 60 participants, $40 each. Gross, $2,400. After the centre's cut and deductions, about $1,200 net. Plus Social Security, $1,540. Total, $2,740. Linda wrote the number in her notebook and thought about the other number, the $600 she couldn't afford for PT a few months ago. She was now earning twice that by teaching what she'd needed to learn again herself. The irony was clean enough to frame. She allowed herself what she'd been deferring. The endocrinologist. Dr. Walsh pulled strings, got her in within a week. New sneakers, $65, cushioned, and she mailed Daisy a birthday package. A jump rope, $12, and a handwritten card. From Grandma, who squats. Daisy sent back a voice memo. "Grandma, you're so cool. Can you teach me?" Linda played it twice. The second time, she noticed her face hurt from smiling, which was a kind of pain she didn't mind. Shelley came in December, with Daisy for the holiday. Daisy hugged her at the bus station. "Grandma, you lost weight. You look amazing." And Linda laughed, because compliments from 12-year-olds are the most honest currency on earth. "Morning," Daisy asked. "Grandma, show me the exercises." Linda took her to the park. The courtyard was under snow, but the park had a cleared path. Showed her the basic routine, the same one from October. Daisy repeated, laughing, mixing up exhale down with inhale down, and Linda corrected gently, with the patient firmness that guides without pushing. Shelley stood at the park entrance, puffy coat, thermos, watching. Mother and granddaughter squatting, bending, counting together, breath steam mixing in the December air. Linda saw her daughter from the corner of her eye, but didn't call out. Shelley came on her own, walked over, unzipped the coat. "Mum, I didn't think this was real." "I didn't ask you to think. I asked you for $600 for PT, remember?" Shelley was quiet. Then, "Can I try?" She stepped in, between Daisy and a tree, in her puffy coat and boots, and Linda said, "Back straight, knees don't pass toes, breathe," and counted 1, 2, 3, and her daughter squatted, awkwardly, heavily, but squatted. And Daisy giggled, and the December morning was cold and bright, and this wasn't a class or a session. It was something Linda didn't name, because some things are better left unnamed and simply done. Dr. Walsh mentioned a summer program, outdoor sessions in the park, free, to attract new participants, and the director of Ross County Regional Hospital had called. "We have pre-retirement staff, a wellness initiative. We need an instructor." Dr. Walsh looked at Linda. "Well, can you handle it?" And Linda answered what she answered every time she wanted to refuse from fear and accept from stubbornness. "I can handle it." Morning. Courtyard. December. 20 degrees. Frost on the bench. Ice on the chin-up bar. Linda walked out of the building in athletic pants, jacket, new sneakers. Around her neck, the brass whistle, heavy, cold on its chain. She'd taken it off the hook that morning, for the first time since the day she retired, and put it on the way you put on something that was always yours, you'd just forgotten for a while. On the playground, Nina, Jean, 2 women from the evening group who'd come without being scheduled, because morning made them want to move. Linda stood in front of them, raised the whistle to her lips, and blew. Short, clear, and the sound flew across the courtyard, bounced off the brick walls, and came back, softer, an echo that remembered where it started. "Good morning. Line up. Let's go." To wrap up this story, let's look at what Linda did to reach her goals and cover her needs. What did Linda do? She couldn't afford physical therapy, not by $100. Instead of waiting 6 months for a free slot or watching videos on a screen, she walked onto a playground and started doing the exercises she'd taught for 32 years. For free, for herself, in stretch pants at 6 a.m. 5 neighbours joined, then 10. Then a doctor watched from her window and offered a job. 4 months later, 4 groups, 60 participants, $1,200 a month, 3 lessons. First, start free. Start now. The courtyard cost nothing. The sneakers were already in the closet. The first step required no equipment, no certification, no permission. Just the willingness to be seen doing something that looked foolish and wasn't. Second, your expired skill isn't expired. Linda thought 32 years of PE teaching was behind her. It was ahead of her, retooled, redirected, more valuable at 66 than it had been at 30, because the people who needed it most were her own age, and she understood their bodies because she lived in one. Third, when they challenge you, bring paper. Rita's complaint could have ended everything. What saved the program wasn't Linda's reputation or her voice. It was 28 pages of protocols, contraindications, and pulse zones that proved she knew what she was doing. A skill backed by documentation is a profession. Without it, it's a hobby anyone can shut down. You have something you've done for years and stopped thinking about. Say it out loud, in the comments. Someone will read it and realize they have the same thing, gathering dust in the same closet. Hit that like button so this story reaches the people who need it right now. And subscribe. Every week we share stories of people who stopped waiting and started moving.